Have you ever thought of vulnerability as being a strength? You may be familiar with the misconception that equates vulnerability with weakness, but it turns out it's quite the opposite. Research shows that being vulnerable is more than just being courageous. It's actually a powerful and necessary strength that we all have access to. In the next few minutes, we'll dive into the power of vulnerability and how essential it is in connecting deeply with ourselves and others. We'll start by exploring what vulnerability is and why so many of us are afraid of it. We'll unpack the connection between vulnerability, shame, and authentic human connection. And we'll wrap up with 3 ways you can drop your guard and show up in the world as your most authentic self. Let's begin. The topic of vulnerability came to the limelight after Brené Brown's TED Talk on the power of vulnerability was seen by millions of people around the world. People resonated deeply with what she had to say. According to Dr. Brown, who is a professor and vulnerability researcher from the University of Houston, vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences. She argues that to understand vulnerability, it is important to understand shame. Shame is a painful emotion that often leaves us feeling unworthy of love and belonging. So, why do we feel shame? We feel shame when we think of ourselves as being flawed in some way and thus unworthy of love and connection. We think that something we did or might do in the future can make us unworthy. So we may mask ourselves with perfectionism in order to hide our vulnerability. We toughen up and build walls around us to avoid pain and rejection. Now, shame is different from guilt, as guilt holds us accountable for what we did and makes us a better person, whereas shame makes us believe that we are not good enough. This can damage our core sense of self as a human being. Feeling not good enough can translate into feeling unworthy of good things. This can lead to disconnection, where we may end up numbing ourselves from certain emotions. But the problem here is that when we numb shame, self-doubt, and guilt, we also numb joy, creativity, and happiness. Nagging feelings of shame can cause people to put an emotional armor around them, which keeps them from connecting deeply with themselves and others. It can lead to believing that they are flawed and unlovable in some way. Shamefulness can lead to addiction, violence, depression, aggression, disconnection, and even eating disorders, or anything for that matter that can numb this painful emotion. Women can feel shame when they are laden with unattainable expectations of who they are supposed to be. The constant pressure to look a certain way, to make a perfect home, to have and raise exceptional children, to be the perfect wife or partner to another, and to thrive in a successful career, all of these demands and expectations can wreak havoc on our emotions. Not being able to have it all can put us into a vicious cycle of shame and unworthiness. We may constantly battle the feeling of not being good enough. Men also struggle with the experience of shame and feeling not good enough. They too carry the weight of unrealistic and unattainable expectations placed on them from their own family lineage, their own self-imposed standards of perfection, as well as societal conditioning around what it means to be a man, and all the pressures that can come with that. So let's be clear that feeling shame and like we're not good enough is a universal human experience that we can all relate to in some way. As we normalize and humanize the experience of shame, we can definitely transcend it and experience a more realistic and liberating perception of ourselves as perfectly imperfect human beings. This is where authenticity comes in. The question becomes, how can we free ourselves from the shackles of shame and let our true, authentic self come forward? The answer has to do with leaning into our vulnerability as a powerful strength in becoming our greatest self and living our best life. Vulnerability, as defined by many researchers, involves some level of risk. Risk of judgment, criticism, pain, and failure. We naturally want to hide parts of ourselves so that others only see us in a certain way, and so we can ultimately avoid pain. But embracing our whole and imperfect selves can be deeply empowering and totally liberating. It allows us to honor our full humanity as we are. And there is a difference between vulnerability and oversharing. We wouldn't want to share every detail of our life with everyone, but we can definitely lean into being more vulnerable with certain people who we want to connect more deeply with. Vulnerability strengthens human connection, and authentic human connection is deeply fulfilling. When we put a protective armor around our heart, we may think we're protecting ourselves from potential hurt, but what we may actually be doing is blocking the gift of love, joy, and intimacy that we so want to experience in our connections with others. And that can be very painful for us. Human connection is natural to us. It is essential for our survival, well-being, and fulfillment in life. As human beings, we have lived in groups, tribes, and families since the beginning of time. And this is the major driving force of all life. Authentic human connection requires honest communication and being real. It requires vulnerability. In her recent documentary, Selena Gomez opened up about how being vulnerable made her feel more connected to people around her. She says, "What makes me feel real is connection. We can only truly connect with someone when we let our guard down, and vulnerability is crucial for connection. We can't fully connect with people if we are not willing to be authentic and expose our true self. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up as your authentic self regardless of the outcome. Self-awareness is key, and so is having the courage to be real. Now that we've explored how essential vulnerability is in our relationships with others, let's get into the 3 ways you can put down your guard and be more vulnerable so that you can truly enjoy the deep fulfillment that comes from authentic human connection. Number 1, explore your pain points. Find out what makes you uncomfortable and fearful. Examine the emotions that you don't want to feel. Give them names and identify how they are affecting you and how they are keeping you from living a wholesome and joyous life. Number 2, heal your pain. Once you have identified it, it is time to sit next to your pain and gently be with it so you can reintegrate it into your whole self again. It is totally possible to heal old pain and be completely free of it. For more guidance on how to heal painful feelings of shame and guilt specifically, check out our video on the topic and free yourself once and for all. Number 3, learn to love yourself unconditionally and let your heart be free. To be vulnerable, you have to let your beautiful and big heart be free. We can easily accept what may come our way in response to our vulnerabilities when our self-love is profoundly unconditional, meaning, regardless of what may come our way, our self-love and appreciation will always be bigger than any response from others. This is our ultimate protection. We don't need walls around our heart. We need self-love around our heart. With vulnerability being a super strength and with self-love being our greatest protector, we're free to be real. We are free to be honest and true to ourselves and to others. We're free to simply be a perfectly imperfect human being. And all of this allows our true authenticity to reign supreme. What makes us vulnerable makes us beautiful and opens the way for us to connect more deeply with ourselves and each other in real and authentic ways. Given what we know, we can now embrace vulnerability as a source of strength that can help us become more of our authentic self and experience the deep fulfillment that comes with genuine human connection. So go ahead, beautiful soul. Love yourself every step of the way and let your heart be free. See where your courage to be real takes you on your precious life journey.